entitlement, zero remorse, zero accountability. These are all themes that have been highly present in the cases we've been talking about recently. But in the case that we're going to be talking about in today's video, it's like all three of those came together for one big triple whammy. Hello Sofa Squad and welcome back to the sofa. My name's Paul, that's the pretend sofa back there, and this is little Roscoe P. Coltrane, our mascot, our official Sofa Squad leader. He is not on either of the sofas back there. He's actually laying next to me on some cushions, and so that's where he shall sit for the video. Anyways, enough about us. Now y'all, you saw the opening, you saw the thumbnail, you clicked it, here we are. Today we're going to be talking about a case that absolutely broke my heart when I heard of this. I mean, I don't even have words for it. Okay, it's that bad. But then also when I started looking at some of the clips that a lot of you sent me in the interviews of the, I don't even want to say alleged perpetrator because, I mean, regardless of what it is, she did it. But of the accused, the person who stands accused, again, like I said, I mean, my blood was boiling. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to talk about it. And the way that we're going to talk about it is we're going to be reviewing some video clips. We're going to do a quick little overview of the case, and then we're going to be kind of like looking and reacting at different clips and whatnot. So that being said, let's start by looking at a little news clip that's going to just kind of give us the nuts and bolts of this case.
Terrible crash kills a woman just hours after she and her husband said "I do." 34-year-old Samantha Miller and her husband were leaving their wedding reception in South Carolina, seen here in this photo. They were being driven home in a golf cart when that cart was hit by a car that was traveling at a high rate of speed. Police say the woman behind the wheel was drunk.
Can you imagine? You saw the couple, all of that life ahead of them. They were just starting their journey in life together. Literally that same day of making that commitment to themselves and to life, all of them comes with that. And it's wiped away in an instant. And we're going to learn about the young lady who, you know, has allegedly done a DUI and done this horrific crime. And we're also going to learn more about the victims as well. So let's take a minute now and let's look at some clips of the woman who was behind the wheel, who rammed her car like a battering ram into this golf cart. And let's hear exactly what was going on that day while this couple was preparing for the most magical day of their life, for a life to spend together. Let's hear what this other person was doing.
The woman behind the wheel, 25-year-old Jamie Komorowski, is facing several charges, including DUI and reckless homicide.
Court documents say Jamie Komorowski set off on a day of bar hopping. She began here at El Gallo Bar and Grill, then made her way to Folly Beach, making stops at 3 other establishments consuming beer, tequila shots, and other shots of liquor. By the end of the night, police reported Jamie's blood alcohol level was more than 3 times the legal limit.
I'd be curious to know if there was anybody who has seen this happen that was in the restaurant who can attest to what her behavior was like. I'd be real curious to know if anything has been said or done or investigated into the restaurants, because I know every place is different with laws. Like, you know how they can get in trouble, like if they were serving someone who's clearly intoxicated, that type thing. I imagine that will come out. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to read a couple of screenshots here, and these are just some more snippets from Court TV, and this is in relation to the police report that took place on the evening of the accident. Now, you can pause to read this, or you can just go over it with me and Roscoe, whatever you want to do. Okay, so I'll start off here. It says, once all medical care was rendered, which was also rendered to Jamie, who did not have any injuries. Of course she didn't. They never do, right? The ones that cause the injuries to others always walk away, you know, unscathed. I switched hats and started the DUI investigation with the driver, Jamie Komorowski. As I made contact with Jamie, I smelled an odor of alcohol coming from her breath and person. I asked Jamie if she had anything to drink, and she stated that she had 1 beer and a drink with tequila about an hour ago. I then asked on a scale from 1 being completely sober and 10 being the most impaired, where was she? She stated she was at an 8. It should be noted that she stated on the scene that she was the one who was driving the listed vehicle. Officer Honeycutt overheard this as well. Also, her ID was recovered from Jamie's, and I can't see what that says. So before we move on to the next one, let's just talk about this. So first of all, an officer asked you from scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're completely trashed, where you at, and you say an 8. And then you see the behavior that we're about to watch after the fact of trying to back out of stuff. girl, no, absolutely not. I don't have a problem with somebody wanting to get, especially a young person, whatever, they want to go out, have fun, be drinking. Do it responsibly. They're sitting here listening to all this stuff off that she did. I'm like, why would you even, in this day and age, with Ubers, Lyft, taxi, friends, whatever, right? Why would you go out and do this? Why would you be flying through these areas as fast as she was going? She's going like 65 miles an hour. Can you, number one, imagine being in a golf cart and getting hit by a car at 65 miles an hour? The other people are lucky they lived. Okay, let's go on to the next screenshot and talk about that one now. So it says, based on the above facts, I requested that Jamie complete field sobriety tests, which she strongly refused and became uncooperative on the scene. Very interesting. Also, when Jamie stood up, she was very unsteady on her feet and almost fell down, and I had to help her stand. She was then placed in handcuffs and transported to HQ BA room by Officer Honeycutt. Once I got to HQ, I started the 20-minute observation and read Jamie her implied consent rights, which she was also given a copy of to read along. After the observation phase was complete, Jamie refused to provide a breath sample, and her SCDL was seized and attached to the suspension form. So she knew enough at that point to not give them, you know, the test or whatever, so that she could tell, they could tell, you know, exactly where she was at. But of course, we have already learned this in the clips that we watched. So she was hammered, okay? And again, have no problem with people wanting to go out and have fun, but just do it responsibly, because this is what happens. And in some incredibly tragic situation like this, it's destroyed not only the bride's wife, you know, who would be her husband, her family, and then this woman's life too is completely destroyed as well. Now what I want to do is I want to take a couple of minutes, I want to hear from some family members, and of course let's start with the victim's family. Now the clips we're about to watch are from a bail hearing that took place, a bond hearing, and let's just take a moment, hear what the different family members had to say about this.
The defendant made the conscious decision to get into her vehicle after drinking all day and take away my daughter. She didn't just kill my daughter, she killed all of us.
This is extremely powerful words. She didn't just kill our daughter, she killed all of us. Because again, imagine the different hopes and dreams that die, not just, you know, with the husband with the daughter, obviously, but the family members, all this different stuff. And then you just pivot yourself around to seeing the aftermath of this. And again, I'm just imagining what that day started off like for the bride, for the groom, for the mother of the bride, for the mother of the groom, everybody, right? This amazing time, families come together, and then imagine late at night after this is over with, finding out that the bride's just been killed. It would be so heavy and surreal, I don't know how I would process it. Okay, let's go into that next clip now.
I would give anything to hug my daughter again.
Night.
When the sirens go off, and I think about that time running down the street, screaming my sister's name.
Oh, I mean, my God, the raw emotion from the father, the sister. And I mean, that's the thing, like when we go over these different cases that we do, you know, in my mind, I'm usually playing out a visual, a story of like kind of almost like reliving it through their story that they're telling. And I could just see her going down the street, it gives me goosebumps, yelling her sister's name, and that sinking feeling, because you know, again, 65 miles per hour to the golf cart. I mean, come on, right? That sinking feeling of this is not supposed to be happening, like at all, not ever, but not on this day. Now, of course, Jamie did make an appearance here. I mean, this was a hearing trying to get her out, and her family spoke as well. So let's take a moment and hear what they had to say, and you know, her vibe as well.
Jamie Komorowski's family was also in court, her parents, brother, and sister. The defendant collapsed when she saw them.
And I also want to express my deepest sympathy and sorrow to the family of the Hudsons and the Millers.
The judge ordered that she remain behind bars on no bail.
I mean, I think that's the most appropriate thing, right? I mean, this was an absolutely ridiculously heinous crime. And when we get ready to watch some of the footage coming from her jail phone calls and stuff, you're going to be thankful she's behind there. Because again, one thing with these cases that we watch, and especially when we see like this zero accountability to their actions, it's scary to think, well, what would they be doing if they were out on the streets right now? Because this didn't even faze them, right? Didn't even faze them seemingly. So would they be right back out at a bar? You know, I mean, we just got off the tail end of the Mackenzie Shirilla case, you know, where she took the lives of her boyfriend and his friend. I mean, and she was out partying it up until, you know, things got real and they hit her with charges, right? But now here's the thing. So, you know, in this case, Jamie, she is, you know, being held without bail. But the judge has said, like, look, if, you know, something doesn't take place by March, we're going to let her out on $150,000 bail. Like if the trial's not happening or whatever. So there is this sliver of hope for her to get out, if you will. And I have no doubt that her family will probably find a way to post that bail and get her out, now temporary as it might be. And in a minute, we'll get into some of my thoughts on the legal aspect of this and like kind of how I personally think from a sofa opinion, of course. So let's go ahead and move on to some of the next clips. And what I want to do now is take a moment to meet her fiance and see, you know, what he has to say and what he can recollect and all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and roll the tape on this one.
Spoke about the tragedy with ABC News.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. That night going from an all-time high to an all-time low. It's pretty rough to try to comprehend. I remember waking up just kind of foggy, out of sorts, and I could see my mom's face and you could just tell something was wrong, and she just she's still an amazing human being that should not have been taken.
Now, the part that he said, you know, him waking up, he's kind of foggy, his mom being there and that kind of stuff. Imagine getting in a wreck and whatever. You're coming out of that, and then you're waking up to this new reality of people telling you, your bride, she's gone, she's not here anymore. I mean, and then on top of it, his injuries that he had to deal with. I mean, he was injured, right? So it's like, you know, he's, again, very lucky to be alive. Let's go ahead and get into some of those clips now. Trigger warning, okay? If you got a short fuse, this one's going to set you off, okay? Let's get into some of the jailhouse calls. And now that we've seen what took place, we've met the family, we've gotten the idea, now this is where we get into some of this behavioral stuff that I do find interesting in these cases. And we're going to get into the dynamic of how Jamie is acting in prison or in jail, and the interactions that she's having with her family. So let's go ahead and roll the tape.
Yeah, it's just it's CJ's birthday.
Well, let me tell you something. They ain't doing it anyway. You ain't missing nothing.
Yeah, but I love him, and it just makes me think of everyone.
I know. Well, I'm here, and guess what? They ain't doing nothing. They don't want to do nothing.
So we're upset because it's maybe her boyfriend's birthday, and she's not there for it. Yes, we're get the little violins out, right? And now I want to say this because I get in these and I get really hard on these defendants and stuff like that in these times, and you know, because number one, I'm usually looking at it from the victim's point of view, right? Which is just kind of how I do that, especially when we see behaviors like this coming out. I get that she is a human, she's entitled to her feelings. She too, no matter what, is going to want to be with her friends and family and stuff. I get that. The problem that I have with things like this is this, and we're going to hear them talk about it here in a minute, is some of the stuff that she's saying are things that I'm like, don't say that in any public forum. If this goes to the point where they're doing sentencing on a case like this, you can already hear the courtroom playing this stuff, right? She's upset that she's missing somebody's birthday. What do you think the bride was thinking in her last moments before you hit her? What do you think her family's thinking? What do you think her would-be husband is thinking? Her mother, her father, her sister, her friends, everybody. What do you think they were thinking? To not then have any sense or even that kind of compassion or empathy to say, you know what, I might be missing out on somebody's birthday, but that might not be the right place to say this because I know this is going to be public. You know what I'm saying? Like, that just, you know, I get it, right? You know, the lack of that is what gets me. Okay, so let's keep going.
Well, I spoke with the lawyers today.
I know. How do you like them?
I like them.
They're top notch. They're hot to chop.
They seem really good.
Who?
They seem really good.
They are really good. At the same time, we can't be doing any better than what we're doing.
Now, the part about this for me is when he's like hot to trot and they're really good. And again, I get this is their daughter, this is their child. You're going to always want to protect that person. We even see this when, you know, people murder other people and whatnot. I mean, there's, at the end of the day, it's their child. And at the end of the day, there is self-preservation. But again, take the temperature, you know, and I'm sitting here like, you know, they're talking about it like she got, you know, an illegal jaywalking ticket. You know, oh, he's hot to trot, they're really good. You know, it's like, look, at the end of the day, there's no getting around the fact that your car took the lives of the people in the golf cart going way beyond the speed limit, okay? Now, of course, the DUI thing, they might try and come at that from this side or the other, like, you know, and I don't know how that legal schmeagle stuff works with that, okay? But I'm like, that could be the only gray zone, even, but if there's evidence showing that she was, you know, drunk, I mean, it is what it is, right? So I'm not sure what you're hoping to get out of this other than to just negotiate to do the least amount of time. Anybody would want to do that, right? I get it. That doesn't mean that I think that that's appropriate or right or whatever. Because again, you know, the carelessness of one's actions over here have caused this utter devastation over here. And there needs to be accountability for that.
You got the best team to help you. Right?
I still just don't know why this had to happen to me.
Whoa, okay. It is the zero accountability, zero empathy for me. That's the part right there that I'm like, girl, they are going to so show that at your sentencing and in any kind of court things coming up. Why, even if you, and I think this is the part that like either Vinny or somebody says, even if you were thinking that, why would you say that? Why would you say that? Why did this have to happen to me? And the poor victims, friends and family and loved ones hearing that. I mean, that's the part that would just run all over me. That I would be like, yes, no bail, please. Absolutely no bail. This person is upset that this has inconvenienced her. She just took the life of a woman on her wedding day and almost several other people. And now she's crying about it because it's like, you know, bothered her, you know, free time or something. Absolutely not. Cannot roll my eyes hard enough.
Because bad things happen to good people, honey. That's why. It's just fate. It's just something that happened to you, and we are going to deal with it the best we can.
Okay, again, this is the part, these two segments we watch right here are really what get me going. And again, I'm trying to play devil's advocate. I understand that this is his daughter. He's trying to be a certain way. I get that, right? I understand that. Bad things happen to good people. What in God's name do you think happened to the bride and the groom? And I forget which of his, maybe his nephew, there's another victim on the golf cart, a family member that was driving them. I mean, is this just like, I'm sorry, bad things happen. This wasn't supposed to happen, right? She wasn't supposed to be driving a car intoxicated going 65 miles an hour. This isn't like just a, you know, fate as he calls it. And I get the whole part, okay, it's fate or whatever. But again, it feels like there's just no empathy for it. It just feels like there's no level of thinking, what if the victims hear me say this? You know, what if this is shown in court? It does not bode well, because what it also looks like is that the parents haven't taught her accountability. And so then when you start sitting here thinking rehabilitation, appropriate sentencing, this type stuff, and it's like, well, if this person's coming from a background of, oh, honey, I'm sorry, you took the life of the bride on her wedding day, but you know what? That's something that just unfortunate happened to you. You know, I'm sorry she got in your way. I mean, how does that look when you're trying to think, could this person, you know, get back out and be a productive member of society and rehabilitate themselves and that type of thing? That's just where my mind goes. Oh, I can guarantee you her defense team is going to see this stuff and be like, everyone zip it. We're taking the phones away from you. You're done. You're done. Now let's listen to her talk to her boyfriend now for a couple of minutes.
The deputy sheriff, like whatever, like the head person of Charleston County, I met with her today, and she's like trying to help me out.
That's good.
And she like is like, you don't need, like, I don't want you in here, like you should be with your family, like blah blah blah. So that's like really good.
That is good. Yeah.
So then I can hopefully be home sooner. She's the head deputy, whatever. She was really nice too. I think her name is Kirsten DeMontez or something.
Well, Kirsten DeMontez is probably doing some backpedaling right now. Now, there's a couple of things about this clip. First of all, when she's talking like she has this like special relationship, and we're getting ready to look at a couple of screenshots, because you already know that the sheriff's office did a statement on this, okay? But her sitting here like, oh, she came by and she's gonna be helping me out, and girl, do you think she's gonna help you out now? No, quit talking. And I'm not trying to give her help, right? And help her out, but there's just a certain level. Now, also look at the boyfriend, and these are questions that I have. Okay, The boyfriend, now this could be his demeanor, right? I don't know these people, right? I do not know these people. And let's just go ahead and give our little warning here. Y'all, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a psychotherapist, I'm not nothing but a guy with a pretend sofa, a sleeping dog next to him, and some opinions on true crime. Okay, they're just that, they're my opinions, right? So these are not fact, none of that stuff. And again, I don't know him, right? So that could be his demeanor, that he's just, you know how a lot of guys are like, wow, that's really exciting. I mean, I'm literally jumping for joy right now. You know what I mean? He could be that type dude. So he had zero excitement until she was like, and he was like, wow. Think about this. Think if you're in a relationship and your person did this, right? And you're seeing them get all excited, which of course you're going to miss them. You're going to want to see them. Think about the dynamics of the relationship that are changed, because he has to be thinking. Someone has to be real in this and be like, girl, you probably ain't going home for a while. And if you get out, probably going back in for a while. What would that make you think of your person to sit here and be like, you were drunk driving, you took the life of the bride, and from what we've seen at least, now it could be different behind the scenes, zero accountability for it. You know, almost like, let's just keep going. As a person who's like looking at this as somebody I might marry, it's like, well, if they don't have an issue doing this and no regrets and none of that kind of stuff, well, what happens when we get into something? You know, because if we're willing to go to this level over here of, you know, I don't really care and da-da-da-da-da, and I mean, she hasn't said that, but you know what I mean? These are just, you know, what I'm taking from it. So I just get like a real neutral vibe from him. Okay, so now let's look at these screenshots of the statement that came out from the sheriff's office in response to this. You can pause to read, or well, listen to me read it. Sheriff Graziano is in the agency's detention centers often, and it is also not unusual for her to visit jail residents. Komorowski is not an exception, and the sheriff met with her one time and had brief in-person contact with her a second time to introduce her to CCSO Mental Health Director William Malcolm, whose responsibility involves visiting detention center residents to ensure various needs are met. The sheriff does not have any special relationship with Komorowski's attorney. It is a professional relationship. What has been surmised by some from the Komorowski's video calls is not accurate in regard to any sort of special treatment. Some may think the situation is special, but it is not. Okay, so I do have questions about this. So the sheriff's office is over here talking about, oh no, this is nothing. Now again, she could just be literally like grasping at straws, right, to get through the day, like, oh, you know. And part of me is I'm trying to think, I'm like, well, maybe she was like, we need to get you home to be with your family, thinking before you go away for a long time. You know what I'm saying? We don't know all the details of it, but I can guarantee you whatever might have been going on there, they're probably reeling in at this point, because it's like, I mean, girl, you put us on Front Street, right? You're on your own. Now, let's go back to a couple of clips of her and her father on more of those jailhouse phone calls.
Okay. And it's life altering. You're going to, you know, experience stuff that you never thought of, and when it's all over and done with, and everything is finished, you're going to be a better person.
Now that's his thought, or that's his words on, yeah, we're trying to do what we can do, but don't want to say you might be going to the slammer for a while, but yeah, you're probably going to the slammer for a while. She ain't getting probation on this, okay? I mean, at minimum, I'm like, I mean, again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, but I'm like, vehicular manslaughter, I mean, a minimum, right? If they can prove the DUI component, I mean, come on. And then there's all the other injuries she caused, right? There's a lot going on here.
What if they send me away for a really long time?
Well, we're trying to avoid that, aren't we?
Again, unsure. At least he was like, that's not going to happen. And, you know, because they're going to have to kind of prep her for that reality of this could be something, you know, this could be, you're going away for a while, you know. You'll probably get a go home day, but I'm talking in a very long time. Now, again, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the facts of the case. This is just me sitting here guessing and just seeing what I've seen of it. But, I mean, to me, I'm just like, oh, yeah, this doesn't look good. But we've seen this happen many a times where you're just like, they got what for that? You know what I mean? Where you're just like, how does the justice system call it the justice system sometimes? Okay, now let's listen to one of those clips. Remember how I told you that I said something earlier about like, oh, you shouldn't say this, and when Vinny or one of the lawyers says this? Here's the clip of him saying that. So just listen to the audio portion when he comes on and talks about it. It is not her speaking when you hear this, because this is the overlay that they did to it. It kind of makes you think like, wow, her voice got deep there for a second, but it's not. It's the attorney.
First thing, why did it happen to me? Yeah, things you don't think, things you shouldn't say if you do think them. And if you do think them and you do say them, you don't say them on a jailhouse phone that's being recorded. I mean, that's just terrible all the way around. If I was the lawyer, I'd say, please, 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 if you think it, don't say it. And if you say it, only say it to me when it's confidential.
And again, amen, brother, right? They're going to be screaming this from the rooftop because all the stuff that's come out of these, I'd be like, do not let her on the phone. Do not let her on the phone. And again, I understand, regardless why you're in there, you want to speak to your family. I get this, right? I mean, we're all human. You would want to do the same, you know, but the things that she's saying, it's like, you're digging your hole deeper and deeper if your goal is to get out and go home on some level.
Lunch today was it was 2 slices of white bread, an uncooked piece of bologna, like this big, uncooked piece of bologna, and then like cabbage and 2 cookies.
Oh, you got 2 cookies. Do you get any like condiments, like mayonnaise or mustard?
No. They fed us hot dogs one night, 2 hot dogs, and no ketchup or anything.
Wow, it must be rough. Must be just as bad as getting married and getting hit by a car out of the blue on your wedding night. I mean, the two are completely comparable, right? I mean, come on. You know, and again, I know we're just seeing a snippet of her having this jovial conversation with her boyfriend, right? But again, these are the kind of video things that it's just like, she has no idea how much damage she's doing to her case here. But also we're seeing these snippets of, this is, you know, what we're being shown as the real person. This is someone who has stolen the life of this other young lady and is just concerned about, you know, why this happened to me. We don't get, you know, hot dog buns in here. For God's sakes, there's no ketchup. You know, where's my snack pack? You know what I'm saying? And so, like the lawyer said, this is not going to bode well in court for her. Now, here's what I think and how this could possibly play out. So, and again, remember, no lawyer here, just a sofa guy. Okay, so these are completely unprofessional opinions. These are like gossipy opinions, okay? So, here's what I think. Do I think that she's going to go to trial by next March? No, what I think is going to happen is the reality is going to keep coming down even more of the, they're going to start talking plea deals at some point. And that's when it's going to hit her, when they're going to be like, how about 25 years? How about 15 years? And it's like, what? She probably thinks she might get probation, right? She might have been like Mackenzie talking about, well, could you take my driver's license away for 10 years? You know, kind of a thing where it hasn't hit her yet. And so that's going to slowly hit her. So let's start with one thing. Do I think she should get out at all? No. Here's why. I do not think she would probably be stable enough, and I'm not trying to make any kind of commentary on what I think her mental health is and all that kind of stuff, but just for anybody. You were already out drinking, partying, doing this. You took the life of this woman. You know, you're very upset in here. You're going to get out. Number one, will you go out and have a binger again and harm somebody when you learn this is it? Or harm yourself, right? Because that would be very scary, because I don't think that she is prepped for the severity of how much trouble she's in. Again, for me, I don't know how the laws work, but to me, I look at it from the sofa point of view of the only thing that could be brazen would possibly be the alcohol. If there's something like, oh no, well, it was this, so technically she wasn't that, but she's admitted to a lot of this. I mean, her own statements were, from 1 to 10, I'm an 8. That's, I'm hammered, right? She was going 65. Even if you take the alcohol out of it, going 65 miles an hour and ramming into this golf cart in a 25 mile per hour and then killing somebody, you're going away for that, okay? Probably never driving again. So just that alone. So if I was her, the person in jail, number one, I would start showing some remorse. I would start really doing some inner thinking to be like, why am I here? You know what I'm saying? And talking to people about this. Yes, of course you're going to have conversations about, you know, am I getting out or this or that and that type thing. But I would literally just be giving this information to my attorney to give to my parents, like this kind of emotional stuff. And I get that that's easier said than done. You know, I don't doubt that at all. But at the center of this case was a young couple whose lives were literally destroyed because of her actions. And so what I would want to see is just a little bit more self-awareness of that, you know, and some prepping on some level of, girl, you ain't getting probation for this, okay? This is for real, for real. So anyways, there's that. Let me know what you think. What was your favorite jailhouse phone call here. I mean, which part of it that she made? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think she'll get out? Do you think it'll happen by March, number one, and they'll let her out on 150? Do you think that what do you think she's looking at? And I get that we're just from the sofa, you know, we're not trying to get serious or nothing, but just an idea. So that's it. Now, again, Roscoe, who has slept so nicely and comfortably here on his sofa, well, he's going to ask you to drop some sofas in the comment section now, because we're at that point of the video. And in fact, until we meet down in the comment section with those little sofas to hang out and keep commenting on the commentary, I'll see y'all there.